remember one guy called Brzezinski. Zbigniew Brzezinski. He was from Poland, I think, and his father moved to America, and he came with his father, and he became famous American foreign ministry kind of thing. So he was very high in the American society, with Kissinger and Carter and whoever. So he was like the academician touch. And he made one book, but become famous, and he called it the Eurasian chessboard. The big chess game about Eurasia. Of course, everything is power, and the one who takes the power has it, and otherwise somebody else takes it. So it's good to take it, because if it's democracy of US, you have the right to take it to spread democracy on behalf of the Swiss bankers. So they wanted to have all Russia divided between the cream top of the Swiss bankers, because they have been dividing the rest of the world accordingly. Mm-hmm. Even China, they are controlling, I don't know, 40% or 60%, something at least. And very central pieces of China they control. So they, I don't know how really this goes, but since the Opium War, they have been there with their agents from this same cartel, built on Venice, produced in London, and reproduced all over the place. Coming one network, wherever there is trade, they have their tentacles, like big octopus. And some of these people researching these funny guys, with the secret businesses and secret societies and secret connections and everything secret. They call them the octagon. So they have the octagon as their emblem, symbol, the 8 powers. They took the 8 powers. So who took the pilaster, meaning the needle of Cleopatra? That's a big pilaster, no? It's a big pillar stone. You know that? One big polished stone from Egypt in the middle of the Peterin Square in Rome, out from Vatican. And there you can see Cleopatra's needle. I think it was like that. Yeah, one extreme thing, really, if you think. Cleaning up the entrance to the hallway. And there's some few phenomena there geologically that have been explained a little bit, because it's obvious that the material outside is brought there by human hand, not by nature itself. It's a mix that you can find where they build roads, but not where nature is undisturbed. Where you have clay and sand put together and made in order to keep water out and keep steady and flat ground and so on. And then they've been hiding it with gravel and earth that makes it grow quite fast and become woodland with bushes and grass and trees. So that way it's been growing over very fast and grown into the wood. So we couldn't understand that anything was there, because it's just like all the rest of the wood. No, you cannot comprehend it to be there. Whatever you look, you don't see anything that is out of the absolute ordinary, looking into any wood in Finland. So they had some busy days and weeks and months doing this thing. And that's obvious. And now, well, as the story goes, this was something they made already in 987. It was supposed to be starting to close. or if it closed in that year or something, but 987. And all over Russia guarded Rusland, which is Ukraine and Russia today, along the Novgorod-Kiev axis, the old kingdom there. They had to go to some Christian faith belief system to go get peace in the Black Sea area where they had their trade. So they had to go into an alliance now with this Christian world, and they choose, of course, to go into alliance with Constantinople rather than Rome. And this is why the Slavonic language had been coming through Vistula up to Poland to be part of that trade organization, and up to the Don and up to the Dnieper also. So Kiev, they spoke Slavic already at that time, but not rest of Ukraine and Russia so much. But when they go over to Istanbul, they all had to start speaking, so in the end all Russia also spoke, many hundred years after. So it's a long process, but when they closed the temple, because of this, and because Denmark fell under the Catholic 983 already, 84, they know that now the old antiquity of Europe was going under all the way up to the shores of Finland, but not here yet. So they were still free, able to govern themselves and their people without any influence, mastery from outside. And there they were in one alliance via the Ladoga system with the Constantinople, so there was no warfare or hostility between the heathen Aser in Finland, the Finns, and the Russian side. Even though they connect to Constantinople, the Constantinople understand this and they accept it. They don't make Russia to conquer Finland straight away, you know. But the Catholics make like that. So as soon as they get to Denmark, they make all the Danes force them to become warriors. For them now, conquering Sweden, you know, their old neighbors, never been war before, you know. But now they have to turn around and attack who was their ally in the defense of Denmark against the Catholics. So everything become very hard times, you know, very, very, very hard times. Because if you don't help the Catholic, they will not only kill you, they start killing your family first. So they can, you know, all young men, 20, 25, 30, had to go according to save their family. They had to go and kill their old allied. No, the Finns never went to kill so much. They didn't participate so much in the war, but they were very important in the civil society and the political system as diplomatic contacts, etc. A little bit like the Swedes and the Swiss have been in modern time, yeah, in between, like neutral. And they tried really to make that neutral, but they understand that when these Roman pirates, who's now become emperor, come here with their killing force, they would conquer everything, and from one direction, from west or east, they will come one day now. They understand this, and probably they understand also that they come from the west, but anyhow, they have to hide the national treasury. And this was their national treasury. So the most important thing they had, they covered it up like this. Because it was stored inside the mountain, they could now hide the entrance to the mountain to become woodland. So they hide it in plain sight, so to say, in the woods. But camouflaging it completely, with the live plants, it becomes impossible to find it if you don't know nothing. So very funny, 1,000 years later, in the same family, they say now you can tell where this place is, because now the peace have come to Finland back, and Finland again is free, able to govern itself. Now the time has returned where we can go back to temple and open and tell the world what happened. What really happened from start of mankind according to the oldest archive existing, still today existing on the planet. So the consciousness about keeping the finest aesthetic and art craft for coming generation was there already very, very long ago when they start to make this memory lane inside that cave. And by every generation, memory lane got one generation longer, like 15 meters more. And there was again one chamber chiseled out from the mountain. And when the king died, they put all the finest things from the castle, which was the national treasure of his generation, into the mountain. And of course, they take all the things from the queen's wing there too, because she was collecting the finest art from female during the same generation. So now inside there is a small hallway into the wall of the big room, and there is a small chamber to the left and a small chamber to the right, and one is for the storage of the queen, and the other storage of the king's goods. So by this you can see also different in female art and male art and everything around this. And among these statues are also some natural replicas of the king himself, being 28, so we can see exactly how they look. This is the reason why full replica was important, and that the statue in the end came out of gold, you know. It doesn't have to be solid gold because you can't move it. But if you make it first in clay and you put gold around, you take out the clay, the gold still remains. And now it's forever if you store it inside the hallway of a mountain. There's nothing coming to it that changes one iota. So forever you can go by and look how it looked now. 30 generation ago, 60 generation ago, 90 generation ago, 120 generation ago. The king of Finland looked like that. No, come on. Look here. He has this, he has that. Well, he looks like my Uncle Charlie. You can always say. And this will personify and substantiate history and heritage and reason of life for the Finns today. If they start to look how they looked like that. 30 years ago is nothing. 30 generations ago is something. It's like 1,000 years, 900 years. So if you look 900 years ago, we look like this, 900 before that looked like that, 900 before that looked like that again. You can always turn backwards. And now it remains to be seen, but 10,000 years of history is already there between ice time and this Ragnarök when they stopped and when they closed the temple. So how many generations is 10,000 years? Must be like 300? Yeah. That is 9,000 years. If you say 30 years, 300 generation is 900. So let's see, 350 generation, 330 generation is 1,000 years. Yeah, so 330 chambers with artifacts, for sure. Then during ice time, they say it was closed, it wasn't used, because all the people of Europe wouldn't produce so much that, wouldn't really, because not so many people alive, no. But they did exist from France to Denmark and into the Baltic Ocean and over to Poland and Baltic and Russia. 120,000 years ago, it was people all along the Volga River. So we know people existed hundreds of thousands of years ago, but we still don't know if they had anything to do with modern man. Now, it seems, out from the last results of this genetic test of Denisovan and Neanderthal and other, let's say, ancient or antique human beings, that we are all a little bit related with this Denisovan Neanderthal too. So they are not different species, they are same species as us. So if now with the same species as we are, were here 120,000 years ago, we can call them the oldest Finns that we know exist in Finland. They were here 120,000 years ago. Do they have anything to do at all with the present Finns? We can say, well, not if they were Neanderthal, because the Finns are different. Well, that's not really true, because all Europeans have a slice of the Neanderthal in the genetic. It can be 1.1%, but it can also be up to 9% of your genes is the same as you will find in one Neanderthal. So there's a famous genetician who's a real researcher, and he's been checking his own genome, and he's specialist in this, and he said up to 9% of the genes I carry, I have been finding also in the Neanderthal. So by this you can see that we are not that different. They were just an antique kind of human being. We are all from the Homo erectus. So we were all born tropical, but now we get a group of people catch in Europe that gets surrounded by ice time, and they can't escape, so they are isolated, and they develop something very special, which is no color on the skin because of this long dark winter. It becomes like the fish that need to live deeper to get the food they prefer. They find a niche in the nature that a lot of food, but it's deep. But if you can get that deep, you have a nice time. So they do. But by doing so, slowly they become white. They lose their color because no light, not light enough. So all the light that come down, they want to absorb. This is why you turn white, because you want to absorb the sun when it comes back more. And if you take one blue man from the blackest of Africa, who have this mahogany we call it. It's one real, when black is so black it shines, you see a shine of purple, like from the raven. You see a shine of purple in his feathers. You see the same on the back of a salmon too when he's big alive. So you find it among birds and animals, this very, very beautiful black. And there are existing human beings on this earth who have skin that show this kind of lilac, this purple. So they are black, but there's a shine of purple there that is unique. And the birds, the raven has that. And because of that, he was a little bit magic bird. Now, you find the same with the hair of some people, and not only the sub-Saharan Africans, but also in India and Asia, you find these deep tropical people with, but they are more lighter skin. They are brown rather than black, no? At least not blue. But their hair can be blue, like a gypsy, because they come out of India. And they've been living for generations in Europe, but only marrying gypsy women. They get sons with the same raven black hair yet today, and they are very proud of that. And they should be, because it is very nice and it is unique, and they have reason to be proud of that, no problem. So what? Now I find on the other end of the scale friends from Finland who are completely white, They are not blonde anymore. They are so blonde, they're white in the hair. And they are 15 years old, they are 20 years old, they are 30 years old. They're still blonde white, The lightest blonde there is. That's also very beautiful. If you see a girl like that, with a white dress and some nice color out there in the field with the flowers, it can be amazingly beautiful. of course. Just like this black beauty can be amazingly beautiful too. I mean, you don't need to be antagonistic about any of this. You better appreciate the difference, because they have so different quality of beauty, but the beauty is still there. So the beauty is something you should appreciate, not hate, There's no reason to hate that black beauty or white beauty, I mean, it's so sick in the brain of people that turn this into hatred that you cannot believe it. But you need to turn your own people sick. If you need to make them learn to fight fighting with weapon, learn to kill people, accepting to kill people, march in column and kill a lot of people on the other side of the river. You have to put a lot of hate in people to do that. You have to destroy their personality and their natural senses first to make them behave like we call soldiers. So soldier, for guarding, you can find natural. But soldier going for killing is not natural at all. And if you don't have soldier going for killing, you don't need soldiers sitting for guarding. So soldier is actually a sick principle in the long history of humankind. The first weapon of war produced in metal to create a death blow to a human being, effectively. So the first war weapon of war, is made in bronze, not stone. And it's not the beginning of Bronze Age. It's rather to the end of Bronze Age. And it's only a small part of the world you find it, not all over. So at the end of Bronze Age, somebody in the world started making weapon for killing, for manslaughter. That's the first weapon known. And it's not found in the primitive part of Europe or in Russia, as they suspect in America today, by genetic or by political use of genetical science, telling us all that the Russians have a genetic mistake, making them more violent and primitive and dangerous than everybody else, very, very dangerous, It's like complete nutcase propaganda, but that's the day of politics. I mean, it's corrupt from the start. The thought is corrupt. What they speak is corrupted, Corrupted by these forces that corrupt them from the start, from early on, from their children almost, by social program, education program, programming into some corner of the existence where they get a little bit twisted in their brain. But meanwhile, they have been utilized, made educated into doing these kind of things, acting against their true nature, killing another human being, like this should be now, like a legio. And because of this war machine started to happen, it spread like wildfire around the globe in the end, but before it turned over to America, it had to come up here. And they knew it was coming. In the 700, 800, they were able to defend because the Danes and the Saxons and the English and the Russians and their Ukrainian friends were able to unite in a defense against these things. So there was an East-West alliance in the north against this East-West alliance in the south. Because Constantinople and Rome was at that point formally like one empire, the Roman Empire. So it was the western branch that collapsed, but they still had their empire intact in Constantinople. But the people in Constantinople, representing now this by themselves alone, were reasonable people, so their neighbors didn't fear them. Because they understood if they just put it on the train and use the trade power, they will gain all these things anyway. And then they got into the language. We need a common language for all trade going out to the Black Sea. And by this they make the Slavic language around the Black Sea as a common language, as a lingua franca. Just that they did in France after the Roman fall of 400, 500, when everything collapsed. And in France there were more than 400 different languages only in France, where one village couldn't understand the neighboring village, because the language was so different. One based on Latin, the other one based on Breton, which is Celtic. The third one could be based on German or Gothic. And these three populations were not able to speak straight to each other. They were not in the same family of language. But in the Slavic or in the East world, Eastern Europe, due to this Constantinople, they make agreements. And if they couldn't agree with people a little bit outside of their territory, they put some pressure there, either carrot or stick. So in that way, Ukraine submitted to Constantinople and already have this Slavic mix. So this Ukraine language, which was the Bulgar Empire, and this Ostrogoth have been combining Gothic and Vendic, meaning Finnish and German language, Finno-Ugrian language, mixing it to become Ostrogothic. And Ostrogothic is under influence of this Bulgar, and vice versa. And this Bulgar is on the east, influenced by the Persian, who was conquering them 600 to 400 already, putting a lot of traces after them. Then this Alexander story putting Greek there, and then this Bulgar evolving into from root language into Slavic language, with Persian colors and these Finno-Ugrian colors from the Ostrogothic. So it became a mix of Vendic and Greek and root. It was based on root, this thing, this Slavic language. Because you have, if you see from younger Stone Age, when the agriculture exploded, so to say, it popped up all over the place, like 6, 7, 8,000 years ago. So in that phase, 7,500 and so back, you find the establishment of agriculture all over Europe, actually. And there you can see these rivers in Poland, over to Ukraine, down to Moldavia, becomes the corridor for this culture spreading from this Baltic, West Europe, down south. And meanwhile they spread via Karela into Russia. So you see it's two different. The Polish came from Denmark into Ukraine via the river there. Mm-hmm. So you go to Daugava, coming out in Lithuania, and this Daugava Pils or something they call it. You can go up, and in Dvina you can go up, and you find Dnieper. So these Danish people go Lithuania, Dnieper, Ukraine, Vistula, Bug, Dnieper, Ukraine. So there is this Gothic corridor, and the Roman pressure, they allied in the north, and these Goths were in the middle of this alliance, because they were educated in warfare already very soon after the first war. They start to understand they have to do something. So the first Gothic expedition of warriors, big strong men with a weapon, happened already 4,000 years ago, and they went all the way down to Turkey and over the mountain into Euphrat, because Euphrat was Europe. And they now defend this Euphrat by kicking out these invaders from the east and kicking them back to this Persian Bay. And that was the first, what they call it, countered punch, so to say, against these war people. Because when only the farmers of Sumeria was their target. They didn't have any army. They didn't have hardly a soldier, you know. They hardly had any castle, stone wall defending them, you know. They had a lot of walls to keep the agriculture and the irrigation running, but it wasn't built for defense. They made a function as defense for some people inside these city walls that they had for trade along these Tigris and Euphrat. But they conquer also this walled city pretty easy, because inside they don't have weapon to shoot back, you know, it's just a matter of time. And you can starve them out, no problem, you know. Because they could, 5,000 men under weapon, had no rival. You know, only military machine in the world, have no rival. You conquer what you like. So they go up the Euphrat and then they follow the mountains over to the coast, where is today Lebanon area, north of Israel, Lebanon, this place. And there they find big trade city, port city, Tyre. And they conquer Tyre, they conquer the ships, and they go out to Cyprus, and they ravage Cyprus, they go all the way to Crete, which was, and they knew very well, the major city, capital, where the two biggest, oldest capital in whole Mediterranean existed, with old treasure and old building, etc., where there are two palaces of the Western Kingdom and the Eastern Kingdom were on two sides of Crete. The Western capital of Crete was the capital for all of the West. When they moved this Western Jupiter family, it was to Rome. So before Rome was built, the king family lived on Crete, and they governed the whole Roman Western Mediterranean from there, while the Eastern Mediterranean was guarded from East Crete, Knossos, I think. And they have all Crete, and they have all this, Egypt is part of them, and the Syrian, and the Anatolian, and all the way over to the rivers coming out of Anatolia, which is Euphrat and the Tigris. And Euphrat and Tigris, this Mesopotamia, was the middle ground between the Greek and the Indian, the Hindu. So you have the Indo-Aryan and the Greek-Aryan coming from same origin on the male side, making these two dynasties after Rice time. And the third dynasty is made now by this West Crete system, which become Rome. So we have one Jupiter family in the west, you have a Zeus family in the east, and over there you have this Narkasul from the Indian, creating three different races. So these Narkasul people had nothing to do in the Greek zone between Euphrat and Tigris, but they intruded, a bunch of them. You know, one branch went out and made themselves kings, and now they had to conquer foreign land to have a land to kingdom, for their kingdom. So they were already there in one setup as a social group, with like a chieftain in the middle who has to put it to his son, you know. So they make a new heritage line, king line, which never could have happened outside of Udma if it was to go according to old law and old tradition. But they broke off and started a new time. So now time was different after they come. And of course the culture was different, because they could do the destructive violence as a tool of power, building might to be right to rule. Where before was the right to rule was always the might, and the right was defined when you're born, and from whom. So if you're born first son of king, you become crown prince, you have to be the next king, you don't have a choice. Today, if you're born the first son of a farmer, you have to become the farmer and take over the farm, according to the standard norm. Yeah? But that was before 1970, 80, and you have the student, and you have all kind of upheaval and everything should change and ladies is emancipate and the female liberation story means that now it's not only the oldest son, now it's the oldest daughter is also there in this cabal. Well, then you don't have a masculine line anymore. So what's left then of the final tradition? It was always the first son of the king, and never anything else, because nature should define who should be the head of state. Like in the head of the grand family, everybody living in it, in that nation. Natio, from born from. So natio, nation, becomes this thing. This native. You're inborn also, indigenous, native. Yeah. So you're born from the land, because the people who made you have always lived there. That's simple. And that's the right. You get it from history. Because if you're a son of this and that, you have the right to this and that. It's that simple. And out of this, the brotherhoods, out of all these PowerPoints, could organize themselves. It was a farm, it was a manor farm for the whole community. It was, a mansion of a duke. Same. It's a family there. And they were only part again of a greater collective, because they were all part of the royal family. So all the people were part of the royal family via. And they all knew. So when you're 7-year-old, you get to understand that this is me, this is Papa, this is Grandpa, and you've seen all of them. And he's the local chieftain. He's the farmer. And here, somewhere not so far, is living this duke. Still maybe in existence, or his predecessor is there, who actually was the papa of Grandpa. He's dead now, maybe, this duke that made Grandpa, but his descendant is there. And he is a prince. So Grandpa was made by a prince, himself a son of the king. So this way, you're 21, you come to the castle of the whole nation, the finest place in the land. You have the right to knock on the door and come in and have a visit and look this beautiful aesthetic they have on the King's Wing once in your life. And before it was like once in your life, every child, grandchild of the king should go and visit the castle. So, it was like a pilgrimage. Mm-hmm. That's why they made the pilgrimage, because this is a need in the people. And now if one guy walks all his way from Vladivostok to Kremlin, mm-hmm. he better get 3 days of rest inside with food and lodging. And the high rank in old days, they had to come here from India, from China even, here, to pay their respect to the Lemminkäinen, or the Väinämöinen rather, and get treated the same way. If they came all the way, they got board and lodging, sure. 30 days normally, I think it was, for minimum. But they say they spent 3 months. And Apollo, in the Zeus system, he come every year, 6 months up here and 6 months down there. So he's like a messenger. This is why Apollo. Mm-hmm. He is the messenger between us and us, hell, and hell us. So from us to Hellas and back and forth and back and forth. So he spends summer here, where the sun is all up all the night, in this hyperboreal, this magic midnight. And he spent the summer down there. Can you believe it? It was not vice versa. No, sorry, winter, of course, down in Greece. So winter he can spend in Crete, and summer he can spend in Finland. That's pretty nice deal, climatically. And this was from the people that were anyway connected with Zeus Jupiter family, who was born out of this old Väinämöinen family in a way. In their language it's named Helios or something, or Hyperion. Maybe it was Hyperion, the name, who made Hyperion made Helios. No, sorry, Hyperion made Uranus, and Uranus made Saturn, and Saturn made Zeus. Yeah, yeah, like this. No? And or how was it the vice versa? No, Zeus made Uranus. No, I'm confused. The whole mythology down there is confused or confusing because it's been rewritten so many times. But the names are still there, and some of the stories have some points that still is correct, but still. It's so many chewing gums in there, you don't really know where it sticks and not, you know. No, anyway, these Jupiter Zeus systems and this Narcosol Hindi system, they work up to a point where they get destroyed from neighbor or inside. And this was this period where... okay. We go out. We go.
Where do you find us? Because there is still nobody.